Hey everyone, it's Tom Karadza, and on this episode of the show, we have my brother, Nick Karadza. We have Daniel Thiessen. He goes by Dan, but there is his full name, Daniel Thiessen. And Dan, if you haven't, some of you may know him if this is your first time being exposed to Dan. Dan is the owner and head trainer of Radix Performance Centre in Oakville. It's a gym that we go to, a bunch of us here at Rockstar go to, and over the years, he's really helped me and my fitness progress. Some of you may not know my personal story. I didn't open the doors to a gym until I was about 39 years old. Nick, my brother, has been going to the gym, I think, ever since he came out of the womb. He's been going to the gym, it feels like forever. So Dan's really helped me a lot over the last few years. And one of the things that you're going to hear on this episode of the Your Life, Your Term show is during our talk, we talk about an experience that I had at Radix where I say I almost died. And I just want to give clarity around that. I say that it was just that this workout pushed me to the max. And when I say I almost died, it was in a good way that this workout pushed me. Like it pushed me to my absolute max, both mentally and physically. And what it was is during this 12-week challenge that he sometimes run, you kind of sign up and you have all these goals that you want to achieve for yourself. And Dan picked one of the goals for myself would be to finish this CrossFit workout called Glen in a certain time. And the time was 45 minutes. And what I had to do in this time period of 45 minutes was do 30 clean and jerks at 135 pounds. So that's like lifting the barbell over your head 30 times. Then after you've done that, you run a mile, and then you come back into the gym and you climb a rope, which I think is maybe about 15 feet or so, 10 times, which sounds so easy, but let me tell you, after 4 or 5 times, like your grip and you could barely get up there. And I almost failed right at that part of the workout. I lost my grip. I had to rest way longer than I was hoping that I would needed to. I thought I was going to give up. It was like the whole experience was starting to go into slow motion for me. It was like this weird state. And but I managed to finish the rope climbs with Dan's guidance. I ran another mile. So then you run another mile and you come back into the gym and you do 100 burpees. And the time cap was 45 minutes. I finished it in 44 minutes and change. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. One of the things I'm probably most proud of. And for context, Mike DeZormo here at Rockstar, he finished that same workout. He did it with me in about 35 minutes, and I don't even think he broke a sweat. So that's where we're at. That's where Mike's at, and that's where I'm at, just for context on our fitness. But anyway, we're having a great time doing that kind of stuff. Super thrilled to have Dan on the show. He talks about some of his experiences. And the other guest that we have on the show, I just want to get her name right, so I'm going to pull it up. I don't want to mess this up. It's Amanda Braddock. And I hope I'm pronouncing her last name properly. So she has the Canadian national record for the clean and jerk. So her record is 101 kilos over your head. So that's over 200 pounds over your head. And then for context, she weighs about 100 pounds. So she weighs about 100 and she's putting more than double her body weight over her head. So when I think about that, I would have to put, I'm just over 200 pounds, like 200, right now, I was about 199. I think right now I'm like 201, 202, 203 kind of range. I would have to put over 400 pounds over my head to accomplish what she accomplished. So if I have the date right, on March 24th, 2018, she set this record. If you get a chance to see the way she reacted after she set the record, she's going to share her Instagram on this. Definitely check it out. So just an amazing story to hear what she's done, the amount of training she's done over the last 6 years, and then specifically over the last 12 months where she had to take her training to set a national record is so instructive for us, because what she did in the sport of clean and jerk can be applied in Olympic weightlifting. Those principles can be applied to anything. I look at it as those principles can be applied to starting your own business or investing in real estate. It's all about dedicating yourself to whatever it is that you're doing. And I just find it fascinating to hear her story and see the similarities in so many different things of top performers doing exactly what she did. So really super grateful that she came on the show and is able to share her story. I think you're really going to get a kick out of both Amanda and Dan. Before we get started, I want to mention, if you're listening to this and you have any questions about Rockstar Real Estate, or if you want to invest in real estate and you're looking for information, the best place to go to would be rockstarinnercircle.com. So that's one of our websites where we have all our blog posts, our articles. We have a ton of YouTube videos on there sharing all different real estate investing information. We also have 3 different digital books. We sell these books through Amazon, but if you want the digital copies for free, you can get them on rockstarinnercircle.com as well. If you want to come out and meet us or come to a real estate investing class, you can register for one of our classes. One of the ones Nick and I are both at, you can register on that site. We stick around and answer any questions. So if you're thinking about, buying your first rental property or starting down the real estate investing path and not sure where to begin, you can come out to that class. It's a 90-minute class. We stick around afterwards and answer any questions. You can register for that class at rockstarinnercircle.com. Okay, enough with that. You're going to enjoy the show. Let's get on with it.
Are you ready to live life on your terms? Is it time to take charge? Real estate, business building, the economy, health and nutrition, and more. It's the Your Life, Your Term Show with Tom and Nick Karadza. Are you ready? Let's go.
We were talking earlier about how how this started, because I think, Nick, you know Amanda's story more than I know Amanda's story. But for anyone listening here, Amanda can put over her head double her body weight. Am I saying that accurately?
Technically,
More?
it's actually more than double.
Yes.
Don't
When you
tell
work
me
that
so
hard,
short.
when
Every
you work
kilo
that hard,
matters.
it's technically over. It's not only is it over, is it a national record?
It's a national.
It's a
record.
national Canadian national record.
Okay, hold on. Let's take 2 steps back. Let's go.
How did we end up here?
Yeah, so I guess the goal
Because
for
that's
today.
the thing that most amazes my brain.
No, for
Because I was
sure.
just computing. Sorry, but I was just computing.
This is how it works with Tom. So Tom's going to take the
No,
lead.
I know.
You
I
guys will
just
notice.
because for me, I'm just over 200 pounds. I would have to put 400 pounds over my head to do the equivalent.
Yeah.
Correct? Which just blows my mind. Anyway, there you go. You can take it from there.
So the goal for today was we wanted to talk about like performance, and just because we get a lot of questions about people about diet, what they're eating, how we're doing certain things, workouts, because for old guys, I think people think we work out a lot or something. And that's why. So there's 2 people with us today. There's Dan. I always pronounce your name Thiessen, but it's not. It's Thiessen, right?
Silent H.
Yeah. So it's Dan. Do you like Daniel? Do you like being formal?
That's like my mom.
Daniel.
Daniel.
Okay. So now we'll go
Call me
Dan.
Dan.
So Dan Thiessen, you own the gym that we go to, Radix Performance Centre. We'll get in all into that stuff. And then Amanda, I don't even know how to say your last name.
Braddock.
Is it just okay?
Yeah,
So
but
I've
if
never
you're speaking
tried.
Spanish, it's Brado.
Whoa.
Okay. I'm not going to say
yeah,
that.
got it.
Okay. So, and Amanda's the coach at Siberia Weightlifting that operates within kind of as part of Radix as well, and also a really good weightlifter, as like Tom just kind of pronounced. So when we say weightlifting, for anyone not familiar with the term, some people might think weightlifting is like bodybuilding stuff, like arm curls and stuff.
Which is what I think associate it with. When
I know
I hear
you
you
A
say
lot of people do.
weightlifting,
Yeah.
I associate it with
People
like
coming
bench
in the
press.
gym all the time and they're like, "Oh, I've been weightlifting for years," and I'm like, "Nah, bro, you have not been
Yeah,
weightlifting for
yeah, but weightlifting is like the Olympic lifts.
Yeah, so clean and jerk, the snatch, that type of stuff, right? So
Yeah, that's it.
and you recently, so to that, back to now where we were, you recently set a national record.
Yes.
So what was that? National record for your weight category?
So yeah, it was a Canadian record in 48 kilo weight class.
Okay, so you weigh 48 at the time, or just you weighed in under 48, and you put, and what'd you put over your head?
101 kilos, which is 222 pounds.
That's incredible.
224, I think.
224?
Yeah.
Just off the top of your head.
Maybe some
Selling
more.
myself?
Yeah, you are
Yeah.
selling yourself short.
Yeah,
Wow.
100 kilos.
That blows me away.
222,
No, it's
224. No, you're
222. It's
222. You're
222.
right.
222?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
102.
I was just thinking about my record, so I'm glad I got 101 because I really wanted 225 that day. So for my snatch.
Yeah,
so.
I'm just trying to keep my clean and jerk at the same
So-
level as your snatch. So whatever
So
Nick's
happy.
snatches.
I'm just gonna
way
leave-
beyond that.
So I'm gonna leave. I'll just leave now.
But
You
I don't.
snatched.
I don't weigh, but I only weigh twice your body weight. So oh wow. So anyways, yeah, that is quite. So for anyone to understand that is like quite the feat. Actually, you went to the World Championship. Last year?
Last year, yeah.
Where'd you end up placing there?
11th.
Yeah, so it's quite, so yeah, definitely top, so high performance. So that's kind of where we wanted to kind of go to. Dan, I know you work with a lot of elderly people like 40 and above, like myself now. So I mean, but seriously, a lot of people, you work with a lot of young guys,
Yes.
and a lot of people that haven't worked out, or they're trying to get in shape kind of later on, after they've allowed themselves to get out of shape. So I think that's where things come in.
Yep.
That's how I lured Tom into this whole world as well. Right.
Yeah. I was definitely out of shape. I don't know if I'm in shape now, but I'm in much better shape than I was.
All right. So first
Mike DeSormo called me fat. That's how this all started.
Called you skinny fat, no?
He just said I was fat.
He didn't even get the skinny.
Yeah, I've never heard Mike say anything negatively about anyone. He just came out at me one day. We were doing a little YouTube video together, and afterwards he goes, "Man, you're fat."
Mike does shop in the children's clothes section, though, so the clothes look really tight on him, to be fair. So
Mike's probably hearing this down the hallway right now.
Yeah, hey, those clothes are tax free.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Dan, I mean, like in this whole world, from what you've seen, like people that are kind of, I'm talking about people that are not basically Amanda people, that are like super focused, hyper focused on performance and stuff like that. But the average person that's, working an office job and just trying to get in a couple workouts a week, what have you seen like be the number one thing kind of either holding them back, or if you had to, I guess, get a few things together that really make a difference for them, like what are they?
I'd say the two biggest things would be consistency in the gym, and then number 2 is diet, which has nothing to do with being in the gym.
Yeah,
But
that's kind
it
of what I
makes a
noticed with
huge
myself. Once I
difference.
changed my diet, my body
Your
shape
body changes.
changed.
You can't outwork a horrible diet.
Yeah.
It is like literally impossible.
Yeah. I didn't realize that's like maybe basic info to you, Dan. I
Yeah.
completely didn't realize that. Like,
And most people don't. And most people, if you ask them how do you eat, the first initial reaction is, I eat pretty good. I eat pretty clean. And you're like, okay, can you write down 3 days worth of what you eat for me? And I get the email and I'm like, whoa, this is pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
it's brutal.
I did that. I just excluded all the alcohol I drank and I sent it over to Dan.
Oh, really?
Either that or I'm like, I go back and I'm like, I don't want to call you a liar, but you need to confess some more things because there's no way.
You
this is
left
all
out these 3 extra meals that you ate.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Amanda? When you're doing this, how are you managing your nutrition? Like, are you always on the same type of your body weight? Does it fluctuate up and down? Like, do you have to cut a lot of weight when you're competing?
Yeah, it fluctuates a little bit. Not so much anymore, but it's interesting that that you were saying that nutrition and then consistency in the gym, but the two tie together, because when you eat better, you feel better in the gym, and then you want to train more often. Like on days when I'm not as careful with what I eat, or I'm not eating specific things deliberately at certain times, and I'm just eating whatever. Like after a competition, if I just go off the rails and I have 2 weeks of whatever, not even specifically looking for things that I want to eat, but just eating whatever I feel like eating, then you never feel as good in the gym, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to do that again. So.
It's scientifically proven, though. People who follow both do way better.
I believe that, but do you think people that aren't, so like when you're operating, and to be fair, I mean, Dan operates at a very high level as well, you know what I mean? So like Amanda, you do, but so this really applies to both of you guys, but because you're both in tune with your bodies, right? But for a lot of people that maybe don't, do you think they feel the difference? Because when you don't know what it's like to perform at an optimal level, do you think people can tell the difference when they're off? Do you know what I mean? Or it's got to take, they have to get to at least a certain level before they can kind of recognize what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely not. Like Dan was saying, people think they're eating well, and then you look through what they're eating, and it's full of processed shit or whatever.
Do you do that
Am I allowed
stuff?
to swear?
You are.
Okay.
But when you're coaching people, do you do that stuff? Do you go through their diet for them as well?
No, not unless there's like a sign that they're sluggish in the gym, or they're not eating properly or something like that, or unless it's like down to the wire before a competition. I'm like, hey, what do you weigh? And they're like, I'm 4 kilos over. I'm like, why are you 4 kilos over?
But how did you guys learn this stuff? Because
Well-
like that to me, I consider myself, like, I read a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But until I was about 39 or 40, I didn't read anything about my diet. Is that something from school for both of you? Like, how did you get this diet stuff?
I did as part of some of the certifications I've done that, but most of it comes for me from reading. I've read pretty much every diet book out there, and then I've experimented on myself for like over a decade. I could tell you the million types of Dan there's been.
And you
There's fat Dan, skinny Dan, Jack Dan. There's all
has there
kinds
been?
of, I could do it. I've
Eat
done
Like
it all.
Dan?
Tried it. Oh, eat like, I had a hashtag.
There was Eat Like Dan.
Because you ate a lot of stuff.
Because I was like, I'm gonna get strong as F, and I'm just going to eat everything in my path. And I got strong and I got fat. And then I decided I didn't want to be like that anymore.
Yeah, got it.
But I've tried every diet. I've experimented on myself in so many different ways. So.
Got it. I feel
can
like
tell
with
you
you
how
two
they all
sitting
work
here,
for my body.
it's such polar opposites of size of people right here that I'm looking at.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I came at it from the opposite. So when I started, I was a skinny twig. I'm still kind of skinny twig, but I was like 99 pounds. So for me, it was like the nutrition I didn't even think about for years, and it was just like being consistent with training. And then finally, when you're like, hey, I need this extra little piece, or I moved up from. So when I started weightlifting, I was like 99 pounds, which is like 45 kilos or something. I did my first meet at like 46 kilos, and then over the years like built muscle, and then started to move up and fill out 48, and then sit slightly above 48, and that's the point where the nutrition stuff came in. But before that, I was eating like a child.
How the hell does someone get into weightlifting?
Yeah,
like how does a girl, so like,
Yeah.
you know, I know, so this is going to sound sexist. It's not, because I was going to say, how does a girl, but I didn't mean it like that, but I'm thinking of like a skinny little girl, like you just called yourself, you know, look around and be like, this weightlifting world with all these, because in the weightlifting world, you know, the ones that you see on TV, because the ones that draw the biggest numbers are like these big monstrous men, right? Like these like huge monsters. So and when I think weightlifting, that's what I think, maybe because I'm a guy or whatever. How did you get into that world?
Yeah, it's always funny when people, I mean, everybody's surprised that I'm a weightlifter, but yeah, you've got a whole spectrum of weight classes. But for sure, I picked it up in the last year of university, but I mean, you have to have someone who like takes your hand and shows you that stuff. Otherwise, you're right. Like, I was never an athlete growing up, and then never did like sports, never tried out for teams in university. And then it was only my last year where I was looking to get in shape, but I was out of shape in the opposite way that most people are out of shape. So I was just like skinny and weak, and then you wanted to get a little bit fitter. So I tried running, and you try rowing, and you try all of the stuff that, you know, everybody starts off with, or at least that most women start off with, the cardio. And then it was my boyfriend who was doing his bodybuilding stuff. He was just strength training for jiu-jitsu, and he would just train at home. And then he was very patient, and I give him like full credit for getting me into the idea of weight training, because you would never, I mean, at the time, I would never have started with just a barbell. Like, you needed someone to say, hey, do you want to come work out with me? And then I would go and I would bring up a book, or I was in school at the time, so I'd go and study while he did his weightlifting, and he never pressured me. And I think that's important. Like, put the idea in someone's head and then let it take hold, like a little seed, but never like no one ever tried to force it onto me, and no one was ever, but on the other hand, no one ever said, don't do this. So I never had someone saying, you're going to get bulky, you're going to get big, or you're going to build too much muscle, you're going to look like a man, or whatever. But then I also never had anyone saying, you know, come do it. So I would go and sit with him as he trained, and then eventually I'm like, you know, I could probably do that.
And he was doing bodybuilding.
He was doing, bench press at home.
How did you do the clean and jerk and the snatch and that stuff like that? Was that the transition?
Yes. Yeah, totally. So that was, sorry, I realized I'm not close enough to the mic. So that was like the first step. So if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have noticed that there was a sign in university that said, if you want to try Olympic weightlifting, come talk to Richard. It was Richard Gonzalez at the time, who started Siberia Weightlifting.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay.
My good friend.
Yeah.
What about, so I just wanted to go back to something you said, because it's so common, and I think both you guys probably hear this all the time. And about the female saying, well, I don't really want to lift weights because I don't want to bulk up.
I totally thought that too, though.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to run because I don't want to use my legs, because I don't want to build muscle in my legs.
Holy smokes, really?
I want to be very clear. So Amanda is very strong.
Yes.
And you completely look like, I mean, I don't know if you want to look like a female or not, but you look like a female. You're not like
this. Yeah, you can't even tell that I lift.
There's this monster imposing figure, and you know what I mean? Like it does, and that's at that level. Like that has always freaked me out. Like, I wish that you could gain muscle that fast and look I would be so happy.
If you figure it out, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll bottle it up and sell it.
Yeah. I think some people are doing that already. So,
with it being legal, then we can talk.
So that's not
that doesn't happen.
That's not a thing.
If anything, my personal opinion is that females who lift, they're body actually looks better when they're lifting.
Yeah, I think that's
Like,
a social
yeah.
change, though.
Yeah.
And
I think that's happened more and more, that it's not necessarily a bad thing for a woman to have some muscle. Whereas before, I think it was just like the really super skinny physique was what was looked at as the prettiest or something, whatever it was. I don't know. I don't understand.
Isn't the thing you guys always are kind of have to battle in your line of work that a woman might come to you and say, I want to be toned but not muscular?
Yeah. So
And then like, how do you
like,
know,
there's a difference.
yeah, like what is the distinction between those two things?
yeah, I think you listen to what they say and then you give them what they need.
Yeah, got
More
it.
of a thing.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah, okay, totally. Yeah, you're going to get toned.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
start
yeah.
with
Exactly.
squats.
Yeah.
But if you don't, like, for instance, if you don't squat, you're missing out on an opportunity to burn way more calories, to, you know, the hormonal changes, all those type of things that help you develop a more leaner, better looking physique.
Well,
I don't know how you would like build that type of physique by doing, I don't know, like sets of 15 dumbbell curls.
Yeah,
It
and
wouldn't
that's
be
something
the
I learned.
same.
I think that applies to men and women. How good the hormonal response is
For
from
sure.
lifting weights. I had no concept of that, any of that. Anyway,
The
I'm
reason
getting.
the reason I got into one of the biggest benefits for me when I got into working out, I don't know if we shared this. So here's the do you even know this?
Tom told me.
The reason I started working
Yeah,
out.
Tom,
So
not you, but
okay.
Tom told me. Yeah.
So we went to Catholic school, and the Catholic school in the last year you have to do it's like half spare, half religion class. So my first half of the semester was spare, second half was religion. I was like, well, I really like spare, so why am I going to start going to religion class? I'm just not going to show up. So I never really showed up, and I didn't get the credit, right? And then when graduation came, I was surprised, half a credit short of graduating. I'm like, oh, this is a bit of a problem now. So I had to find a summer school class, and I found, I think it was a grade 10 class at the time, or a grade 11 class. I don't know, but it was but it was the easiest summer school class I could find. Was a grade, I'm pretty sure it was a grade 10 weightlifting class.
I can't believe they offered that as a summer school class.
I never would have taken
Yeah.
So I'm like, perfect. So I started weightlifting. It was just bodybuilding stuff, like strength training, right? And he was an old power lifter. He was a gym teacher that was an old power lifter, so it was that type of stuff. And I took that class, and that's how I graduated high school. But
I think the story I shared, though, I think it was your jaw.
oh no, that was after.
Yeah, what was that after?
Oh, when I got my jaw broken.
Yeah, got it.
No, this started before that.
Oh,
Yeah, it
I
wasn't
just
that.
heard about the jawbreaker.
No.
Yeah.
Tom will often change the stories to like what he likes. The better one is a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Well, it was a better story. I'm going to have to take full credit for that.
yeah. No.
I don't know if we shared that either, that story.
When I got my we'll share that another time. When I got my jaw broken.
But,
Yeah. Lots of stories we shouldn't be sharing. I think we could share the story about how I was upside down in a car in a ditch too.
Yeah. I want
that one
to
away.
get back to I want to ask Amanda something. I don't understand how you went from that to the training regimen you need to get to set national records. Like, how do you go from okay, I'm going to try clean and jerk to like how many times are you training or what was your training routine in the last 3 or 4 years? Like, how many times are you in the gym, or how many times a week have you been doing it, and how did you get to that place?
Well, I mean, now definitely my training's ramped up. I'm training about 6 days a week, but I mean, like, even the off day is like, well, Dan knows it's hard to just like whatever,
nothing.
go for a walk or something, like that's it.
Especially when you like live in the gym.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh,
So
I could
6
play
days
with
a
this
week.
dumbbell.
6 days a week now, but it didn't start off
And
with
that's
that.
one training session 6 days a
Yeah,
week.
yeah, just one
okay.
training session a
But
day.
ask her how
I've
long that training
experimented.
session
Yeah,
is.
Yeah. So how long is it? How long is the training session?
it's like anywhere from 2 to 4
Yeah.
hours,
Okay.
but that's from warm up
Yeah.
through all of these movements, and then
Accessory
and
stuff
then
after.
accessory stuff, and then stretching, and
Okay, and then how many years to set a national record?
I've been lifting for like 6.5 years. So
6.5 years, and it all through 6.5 years. How many years was it 6 days a week?
probably just the last year or so.
Last year, 6 days a week. And
Before
the
that, it
previous-
was 3 days a week. 3 days a week. But I mean, when I started, I was in school, and then when I graduated school, then it was like find a job, and then I went through a bunch of different jobs, just trying to find the one that let me train more, or let me train at the time that I wanted to train, where I could be coached. So I mean, I was always doing something else. So I don't think I would have been able to train 6 days a week anyway.
And then 3 days a week for that majority of time. How many times did you miss training sessions?
Like almost never. But
That's the point. That's the point I think everyone needs to hear about setting that kind of record. Because how many years of not missing a training session do you think?
Yeah,
like multiple years.
I off the top of my head, there was once where there was a snowstorm and I got stuck. I was taking the bus and I got stuck.
And she remembers it very vividly. As you
She
know.
missed it once.
It was traumatic. Yeah, I got stuck at the bus terminal and I literally could not get to the gym. But then, of course, you make up for it the next day. So.
Let's see, you missed one because of a snowstorm and you couldn't get on the bus. Well, let you off and you freaked yourself out, it sounds like, about it.
But I did it because I loved it, right? Like, so it's not like I just, I was this insane, like, I mean, I'm sort of insane, but it wasn't just like this obsessive, like, I need to do this because in 6 years I will have this record. Like, you have no idea what's in store.
So
but
when you say you loved it, you loved the struggle of working out.
I loved the technical stuff. So,
Okay.
If you've seen her lift, I wouldn't call it a struggle.
No, I just meant the kind of monotony
Yeah,
of like
Yes.
over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I am that sort of person. Like, I will pick something up and then just like go head first into this, like, whatever it is I'm doing. All of my hobbies have been like that. Like, there was a period of my life where I got really into sewing, and
Amazing.
Wow,
then
that's
follow.
a real amazing switch from
I'm
sewing.
expecting a really nice Christmas present this year.
to Olympic
But see,
weightlifting.
I never like. That's when I'm either like all in or that's it.
Yeah.
And so
Amanda sewed quilts for half of Canada. There was a 6-year period
There's
where
a
I just
whole
sewed
world.
quilts. Yeah, there's all these quilts that I sew.
Oh man, dude, like if you get into that, like in anything, and no matter what it is, like there is a whole other level where you can take pretty much anything
you can get
and
deep down that
you just
hole.
Yeah.
so
But I
many
also
things.
think that the fact that you said you kind of loved that, well, the process, I'm not sure, I can't remember exact words you used just there, but you loved doing this.
Yep.
And the result almost came out of just committing to the process.
Yeah, and I mean, you take it step by step. So you get started and you love it, and I honestly, I think I got lucky at the time because I mean, even 6 years ago, like I wasn't on Instagram, like there was no hook grip slow motion videos, like you couldn't obsess over what everyone else was doing, and so I think that might be hard. Like going into the sport now, where you see everybody else succeeding and they're getting so much better than you, and then there's like, well, this is like all I had like 2 YouTube videos that I watched just over and over of like whatever the 2009 World Championships or something. I'm like, okay, this is possible, but you don't see each lifter and their amazing highlight reels of PRs.
Yeah, and comparing
stuff.
yourself. That's an important point because I think when we started this business, Nick and I were just blinders on.
Yeah.
We ignored everything in the real estate world. We just paid attention to what we were doing.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to see any of it because we didn't want to get distracted or get any negative feelings about what we could be doing better. So that's a good point. I never thought about that.
And that's how I train too. Like that's how I train even now. I'm like, I don't care what any of my competition is doing or what they're squatting or what, like I'm not, some people are really motivated by that and they're like, okay, well, so-and-so's doing this, so I need to push harder. But for me, it's just like, I'm going to get as good as I can get at this pace and there's no rushing it. Like you just got to keep taking it day by day. So
Yeah.
It's
And I
way
think,
better
I mean,
that
in
way.
6.5 years, how many fail, like, look, to hit, to do something like break a record, how many failed lifts are there along the way?
infinity. It never
And
ends.
how long was that
Right.
record in play? The record you
It
broke
was 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
So cool.
Actually,
That's
you know what?
cool.
I should say something. I think it said a lot. I'm guessing when you posted on Instagram that you broke the record, one of the first things you said was that like you thanked that person for setting the bar so high and stuff like that. But that's cool. A lot of people wouldn't do that, and I think it says a lot about your character. I just thought that was a cool thing for.
That's very cool.
But yeah, for 12 years, was she pissed off?
I don't know. I doubt it. She
I
has
think-
a lot
I
of
think
other
the kind of
Canadian
people who-
records.
Oh, yeah.
She's got other things on her plate.
Did she troll you?
If you've had the record for 12 years, I think you're okay.
Yeah.
You're probably wondering at that point it's
Good.
inevitable.
Pass the
Yeah.
torch on.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
But I mean,
It's
if
a
the
good thing
record were
for a Canadian.
99, like I wouldn't have gone to 101. I
Yeah,
would have gone to
seriously.
100, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
it.
fair.
So now I'm like, oh crap! Like now it's 101. Okay, well I gotta at least do 102 now. Like
It's funny now the target's on your back, right? Because there's
Yeah.
someone else out there in Canada.
well, they'll never
right?
have it because the weight classes
weight
are
classes
changing.
change.
Oh, really?
It's forever
Oh, so you
cemented.
No way,
permanently
really?
have that. You permanently.
This
have
was the
it.
plan all
Yeah.
along.
Yeah.
Good, yeah, she timed it perfectly. That's why it took 6.5 years.
Yeah.
And I know there's some people listening to this who have no idea what a clean and jerk is
Yeah.
or a snatch. The lifts that you do.
Yeah.
Can
Go
you
on
just
YouTube.
describe? Yeah, but just describe it. It's basically just describe for layman's
So
terms.
so both of the lifts take an evenly weighted barbell from the floor over the head, and the snatch does it in one movement, and the clean and jerk is 2 movements. So you'll bring the bar from the ground to your shoulders and then from your shoulders overhead.
And it's substantially harder than it looks when you watch people that know how to do it. So if you're going to go on YouTube, like Dan suggested, look up good people, and then just for some fun, look at some like clean and jerk fails, and it'll be.
Or you could just look at a bunch
or
of
you
us
could just
trying
try
to do
it.
There you go. Come into the gym.
It is really
Amanda
kind
will
of
coach you.
humbling when you see someone like you lift, and then like for me, someone like me, I would think to myself naturally, like I think I can probably do that. Like I don't know, I can probably do that, and then I can't do half a percentage of what Amanda can do. It's really humbling.
I think the snatch is probably the most technically difficult movement in all of lifting at any sport or any barbell movement.
You know what? And because it's a combination of not just strength, so it's like strength, there's power, there's speed, there's mobility, like flexibility and stuff like that. It is a truly like a full movement. You got to be really excel in a lot of areas to be able to pull it off. It's not just like, okay, I'm big and strong and I can just rip this thing off the ground and put it over my head.
Some of those guys are the worst, the big and strong ones.
And they don't. That's something I've appreciated from Dan, your guidance coming to Radix. I had no appreciation for mobility. Like I didn't know anything about the gym. I just thought you kind of lift weights and you get strong.
And mobility for other people is basically like stretching and being able to put yourself in pretty much, for the most part, natural human positions that we're no longer able to do because we all sit on chairs and work at desks and all that stuff.
Yeah, like when I started, I couldn't squat, which sounds really like I legitimately couldn't squat. And I mean, not with a barbell. I mean, just squat to the ground standing. And it took, for some reason, I got really proud when I was able to just squat down and kind of sit there.
But that's not uncommon. You must see that all the time.
And you'd probably see it more if you go to a Good Life or something like that. Most of those people can't squat either.
Yeah. One summer, about 4 summers ago, when I was starting at the gym, I had some hip issue or something. And for some reason, I think it might have been Rachael, Dan's wife, I think said, you're going to solve that by squatting or whatever. I don't know if you remember this. We went to the beach with my family for a month. Everyone else gets a towel and lies at the beach. For a month, I just squatted right next to them at the beach. And afterwards, it helped me so much.
It was very weird.
Yeah. It was weird. I had my sunglasses on and
Croatia?
I just squatted on the beach for a month.
In Croatia. What
did the Croatians
is that
think
even,
of that?
Is that even unusual in Croatia?
No. The people looked at you like what is wrong with this guy?
If you're doing anything other than walking a little bit slowly and sitting at a cafe drinking coffee by the beach, they're a little bit
so squatting next to your family for hours on end?
I run up and down this kind of like mountain road, and then I'd run down to go for a swim, run back up, run back down, like early morning, and the people see me, they're like,
you're psychotic.
What's wrong with this guy?
You know what the best part about when Nick did that by our condo there in Croatia, and what he didn't know was the ex-police chief of the entire region of Croatia was sleeping under a tree. He's best friends with these guys we know right from this area where we go, and he was there visiting. They drink all night, they sing all night, and then this guy just went to sleep under a tree all night. And he got up, started yelling, "Who's this guy running up?" Because Nick's running up and down this hill, just making these loud, like stomping noises,
people,
and scaring this guy. And this
big
is
guy like you're running from something.
Yeah, and this guy, I mean, Nick's a pretty solid guy, but this is a kind of like a crazy dude. Yeah. So not the kind of guy.
Oh no! If this guy said anything to me, I would have stopped immediately.
Yeah. I know he's the kind of guy that when he says something, you're like, okay, I'll stop.
I'm very sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Would you like me to do it again?
I'll completely stop. But that was just something that I had appreciation for: mobility, being able to squat down for like 5 seconds at a time, and then 10 seconds at a time, and then putting your hands over your head, which I still kind of struggle with. Yeah. Just that stuff. So did you work on that constantly?
Constantly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're always doing.
Yeah, because stuff. I have like years of bad habits from like boxing and Muay Thai. I have my upper back and shoulders all. Ask Rachael. Poor
There's
lady.
a running joke in the gym about how long it takes Dan to kind of warm up.
Yeah. But if you spend years like actively in a bad position like this.
Yeah. But then he goes and lifts more than everyone in the gym. So
Yeah. Dan's a pretty
smile.
He's happy. But I think for me, it was kind of just hunched over a keyboard for probably from the 21 till about 38, just kind of like that. And then your shoulders and stuff. So now the appreciation I have, and also from watching, people like you guys doing it to such a real high level. But I feel good that I have a little bit of mobility. That I can go to the gym, I have a little bit of mobility, I can go run around a little bit and put a few things over my head, do some pull-ups. I feel like my body's actually functioning, and it's that when I first started going to the gym, when Nick pulled me in there, I didn't think that's what I was going to get from it. I thought I was just going to go lift some weights and get strong. But the whole kind of mobility side of it, to me, is almost the better part of it, which I totally appreciate.
I think if there's if the balance lies anywhere too much to one side of your fitness, then you have like a weak link in your armor, and will lead to some type of issue in the future.
What about making changes? So I know you do something like the 12-week challenge. You're on the second thing with people. So
Yes.
I guess you think that's good enough for people to make wholesale changes for themselves?
I think 12 weeks is long enough to make a huge difference in someone's life and create habits that can, not necessarily will, last for years to come.
And that's where you take it. So just so everyone knows, you're taking a group of people, they're setting goals for themselves,
Yes.
and you're doing a whole
Everything.
fitness regimen and diet to try to get them to those
their
goals.
goals.
You did that. You guys did that last time, right?
Yeah, I did it in the fall, and Dan made me do something I didn't. And I say made me because I didn't really want to do it. He chose. I wanted to, but you
not to the
chose it.
level
Yeah, but I
that-
heard you almost died doing
I
it,
almost,
right?
Yes,
I
yeah.
almost died, but it was like one of the best things of my life.
So
I
don't
was so
pick
happy.
You
don't pick
almost died.
Don't pick
Yeah.
Tom what Tom did. I heard he almost fell off the rope. He was at the top and he
Literally
almost,
almost died.
almost
I feel like I almost died,
But
but
but you don't
but
have
man,
to actually
without-
almost die.
No,
to
no,
do
no,
No,
that.
I just want to clarify
There's
for anyone
plenty of
listening. I'm
people-
very happy that I did that,
Yes.
and I would
Yeah.
gladly go through the whole process again.
Well,
Oh,
some
yeah.
of those guys have made some amazing changes.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, all of them.
100%.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
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 Is it just men?
No, the first round was just men, and it was not because I'm sexist or anything like that, but it was all based on. I got the idea while I was at your entrepreneur
yeah, that boot camp we
boot
did last
camp
year.
that
yeah,
we
yeah.
did. That was awesome. So I got the idea during that. Just something that I could help the members out with, the people that I was already working with more. But it was based on the fact that I was going to have my first child. And the second thing that was bothering me that was going on in the gym was the 5:30 class got dubbed the dad bod class. And dad bod is a term of like when you're skinny but you have like a fat belly kind of thing. So that's
Oh.
dad bod,
I
right?
don't know.
Yeah, that's
I didn't know, but I guess that's what Tom was
It's
before he
just
started
like
working
embracing.
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
embracing
That was classic.
being unfitness of being a dad. So I didn't like it.
Just letting yourself
So
go.
my goal was to like start a 12-week challenge where by the time Rach gave birth, we'd be at the end of the challenge and I'd be in the best shape of my life. And I was going to prove it by PRing my snatch and doing this workout called Fran to show that I was in the best condition of my life. And then I got my body fat down really low. So overall, the whole fitness spectrum, I was like everything that I wanted to be when I became a dad. And then for all the guys who were along was I think 99% of them were dads already, was to kind of get their lives back. And
Actually, that's
one
a
of the
good point. I
biggest
think it
things
was a
on-
lot of dads.
And a
Yeah.
PR, just for anyone listening, because we take so much for granted. It's
Yeah.
a personal record.
Personal
so it's
record.
Like
So
a best
I was
for
going to be
whatever.
the
And we-
strongest I've been in that movement ever.
We
Yeah.
talked about Amanda's weight already.
Yeah.
Like, what do you weigh?
So
He goes up
I
and you
fluctuate.
yeah.
My weight fluctuates anywhere
Depending on how many
between
donuts he eats.
between 205 up to 220 pounds.
And then so when at the 12-week challenge, what was your body fat down to?
So 6.5%.
and
that's
can you feel good at 6.5?
I not for long.
Okay.
I start to feel.
So when do you-
like
what's your
I'm gonna
range of
kill
feeling
somebody
good?
If they don't feed me.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
What do you feel like? Is
Like
it
10% is like
Okay.
a good
I
feeling.
think for a guy for most males, that's kind of like a good place to be, to feel good and not be overweight and stuff.
10% you can still like see your abs are not like super defined, but they're there.
Yeah, got it.
Anything more than that, and I feel like just sloppy.
What's your where's your weight when it comes to body fat and stuff, Amanda? Like, do you keep it? Do you even care about that stuff? Yeah, I figure you don't.
It's the joke that I don't want to talk about it. No, I well, the last couple months have been different because I started working with someone who is helping me manage my weight. And for a long time, it was just like, I was like, Dan, just reading a bunch of articles, like trying to figure this stuff out on my own. And then you tried every diet. And I found a lot of them, because I do have more muscle mass than your average, like 105-pound woman, that a lot of these diets, even the ones that, I don't want to name any names, but even the ones that aim at CrossFitters or athletes, like that market themselves as this is for strength athletes, the calories that they give you or the macros that they give you are so low.
So you weren't eating enough.
And I wasn't eating enough, and I'm probably burning a lot more than I was
So
eating.
the problem lies in with these companies too is that if they like when they do that is you will get super lean, especially for her output.
And I was already really lean,
Yeah.
like when I
But
started.
if she posts pictures and tags them and looks super ripped, then it's
Then-
way better for the company.
Yeah,
rather than
got
just
it.
focusing on purely on performance rather than the way you look. People this world of social media, that's a huge driver, right?
So I'm curious, how many times do you have like a set time that you eat during the day? Is it like set amount of times during the day?
There is sort of a suggested schedule of meal timing. I'm more or less strict with that based on like right now I'm like kind of off season, so I'm eating 3 or 4 meals spaced evenly throughout the day. But yeah, you can really you can get into this in insane detail where you have a pre-workout with precisely whatever 10 grams of carbs and 10 grams of equal amounts of carbs and fat and before training for specific purposes.
So you don't get
recovery.
that hardcore about it?
I do. I get a little bit strict about it for this meet. For this string of meets, because I had 4 competitions back to back.
When you said meat, I thought you meant meat, like this. You're eating
steak.
some kind of meat.
Steak.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 meats, 4 types of meats.
Yeah. Like, oh wow, what types of meats are those?
No, I had to make 48 kilos 4 times in 8 weeks. So I knew back at the beginning of the year when I changed up my training plan, I changed up my nutrition, and I knew that I was going to have to make weight at all of these meets, and I didn't have time, and I didn't want my performance to be dipping and then having to bring it back and then dipping and then having to bring it back between meets. So I knew I was going to have to maintain at least something close to 48, like 48.5, 49 at the most, to be able to get through all of these meets like at 48. So for this, I was stricter with it than I would normally have been. But I mean, before I was like trying to do my own thing, and then you kind of set your macros up, but then you end up changing them based on sort of what
self-coaching.
Self-coaching is not in any I feel like I have a really good team now, and I can just offload like, okay, just tell me what to do here, just tell me what to do here, just tell me what to do here, and I'm good with that. Like
you'll follow it, and
follow it. Yeah. There's no.
Plus, there's a voice of reason. When you coach yourself, there's no voice of reason.
Yeah. No,
because I've programmed for myself before, and then I'll like kill myself, like because I need to do everything every day. And then
you beat yourself up because
to the point where you can't even barely move anymore.
Yeah, got it.
I didn't do 5 reps that I said that I was going to do. I'll just do them today and then tack them on at the end.
It's just never a good idea. And then if you just take it and you look from the outside in and be like, would you ever give that to another human being on this earth? Like, no.
Never.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I'll vouch for that because it was big for me. When you started doing all my programming, it was a big difference for me. And not just that, instead of trying to go and, not that I'm like anything like you guys, but I was kind of working out and just taking the standard workouts that everyone was doing. And for where I was at that time, it was much more beneficial for me to have someone programming specific to me. And it made a big difference. I didn't realize that was just a few years ago that you started doing that. I was like, holy crap, I've been missing the boat all this time.
That's the whole reason why we ended up.
Yeah.
You end up at my gym.
Totally. It was just, and then I was like, you just find someone that's smarter than you with that. You're busy with other stuff. You hire them as a coach. They help you. They walk you through it, and it's easier. And I think it's just like when I went to Olympic stuff, you said like, okay, you go talk to Amanda now. She's going to make you better at it. Yeah. And it worked out.
Because you guys have been all doing this for so long, I think also you can underestimate how like little the average person knows, or at least I did.
Sure.
Because when I walked into this world, I just thought the leaner that you got, like I thought, oh, if you're leaner, I guess that means you're stronger. And I did a whole
fit.
And then the biggest time I realized that was this 12-week challenge is I think I started at 15 or 16% body fat, and then you got me right down to like 9 point something percent body fat. And I think it was
Ripped.
for one
for
day.
a day.
Yeah, we took pictures.
And
we took pictures.
They did a bunch of bicep
we took
curls.
pictures. Yeah, we took pictures. But I realized that I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I actually feel better in like the 10 to 12 range
sure. I don't doubt
than that range. I had never really felt that personally. So I think once you go through this stuff yourself, you can kind of understand where you feel better. But before, I honestly just thought the leaner you got, that must mean you're fitter and stronger. I didn't know that there's these different zones where you can actually feel stronger with more weight on your bones. As something as simple as that, which I know might sound ridiculous to you guys, I didn't even get. I didn't understand.
Well, like I get when we do these 12-week challenges, I get kind of daily reminders of how much people don't really know, because the questions I get, I'm like mind blown.
But none of us we're not taught that stuff at
all.
all.
No. And it's not taught, and it should be taught, but it's not. I agree with you 100%. take it for granted over and
Just
over
think,
again.
we're taught
right?
the food pyramid.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
Where
the
everything
food
is
pyramid.
like
I was-
think what
starches.
matters now.
Yeah.
Well, so many people still think like eating fat will just make you fat,
Yeah,
like a basic
exactly.
thing like that. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Or
That
you want to lose weight, so you cut out meat.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, when I was in the bodybuilding,
I was eating
Or even-
vegetarian
even
subs for a
now.
while because I'm like, I'm not.
Even now, so many people
Like, it's my
are
diet.
like low carb, and I don't even agree with that either. They
Yeah.
get, it's like these trends. It's like why do we go
You know
so
what?
up and down and so
I
crazy?
want to share
with
something
these
on that.
things,
So
you know?
I before I knew what it was, well, I still don't really know if I'm much better, but I did low carb for, I did that, like I tried to go pretty low carb pretty meticulously for 2.5 years.
Mhm.
And then the last year I had a sore throat and Nick was saying, hey, I think you should probably just eat more carb.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know.
It wasn't, I don't know. It was like, no, listen, I know it's not that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to do that. It's not
Yeah.
that. And then finally,
It's
he's
funny
like,
how I remember it so differently.
he started eating more rice, like for a week or something. He started
No,
eating
no,
some
that was Dr.
sweet
Cowan. He
potato.
finally
Oh, okay, yeah.
said, I think eat some more rice.
Yeah.
And that's when I was meeting Dan. And Dan was
Nick
like, you're,
told Calvin, he's like, tell him this.
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
And
listen
And
to
then
my
Tom
younger
comes
brother.
around. He's like,
I can't listen to my younger brother.
My throat's feeling better. I'm like, oh.
It's one
Yeah,
of the
and
biggest
then
things
Dan,
I
you
do,
said
though.
also that
Yeah.
you're not eating enough, and
Yeah.
that was all around the same time.
For
And then it
sure.
just all it was better.
Especially
I
for the
found that
type of
too.
workouts that you wanted, you were doing and wanted to do, 100%. That's, you know, who was James Meggs. He came in the 12-week challenge, and I gave him. He's on this 12-week challenge, and I gave him his first diet plan, and he came up to me. He's like, "Dude, this is way more food than I eat. How am I gonna lose weight?
Yeah.
Just
It's
give it a
amazing
shot."
that you lose weight
Yeah.
eating more.
6 weeks later, ask him what his results were. Lost a bunch of body
Yeah.
fat already, feeling better, working out better, you know, growing muscle because he's been under eating like a grown
But that's
man
the kind of stuff
under-eating
that
for
like
so
you don't
long,
know.
right?
Like I think most of my friends who don't go to the gym and they
Yeah.
want to lose weight, they still associate losing weight or getting in better shape by like going to salads.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just
I've heard of
eating
people
less.
eating 1 apple a day. I would kill myself.
Yeah, that's
Oh
tough.
my gosh.
But did that happen to you as well?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's like when I started with this new nutrition guy. Like he bumped my food up like a ton, and this was like 3 weeks before Ontario Championships. I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, I'm confident that you'll be able to get down to below 48 and then walk right into the meat. I'm like, there's no way that is possible because I've starved myself into meats before, and it's really, really hard. You're telling me I can eat this much and then still be underweight, like the day before the meet, and then eat breakfast the morning of. But it's true. Like as soon as
that must be
I
nice.
literally like within a week after bumping up my calories, like you just drop.
And how are you
bunch of
feeling?
weight.
You feeling
I
better?
felt great. I mean,
Yeah,
like
You must,
You're
because you're
eating.
not starving. You're not
Yeah.
cutting weight
No.
before the meet, so your energy, your whole energy system must be happier.
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
and it takes away that whole like yo-yo thing where everybody brings donuts to the meet and then
Binge hard.
binges on whatever afterwards, and then it just like spirals, and then you have to do the cut all over again because you gain so much weight from like the week
I
after.
can give you like an extreme like example of all that. So I was 16 turning 17 when I did my first grappling tournament. I was about 190 pounds come that time. So I cut down to the 170 pound class. And I had been training for like 3 months at the time, and they're like, "Oh, you can do it, don't worry." So they gave me some
Coaching
like,
advice number one.
yeah,
Don't worry, you
so
can
they
Don't
gave
cut
me,
for your first meet.
so
Just cut 20 pounds.
yeah, so I cut 20 pounds in like 3 weeks. And it started this spiral effect because I loved everything to do with martial arts and competing and fighting. And so I would do these yo-yo like cuts, and I would undereat like very consistently to continue to compete at the weight class. And I didn't want to go up because, you want to be the biggest, strongest guy in your weight class and all those kind of things. And I did that for years, and it started to really like when you're younger, I think your body can really get
handles it a bit.
away stuff, right? But over years of doing stuff like that, I had to have blood work done before a fight, and when the blood work came back, my blood cell counts were so off that they thought I might have leukemia or something like that. So I had to go in. I had to get a bone marrow extraction done out of my hip. So they literally, like, it's the most medieval thing you've ever seen. You go in, got your robe on, three or two doctors and a nurse come in, and one dude has some type of tool. The other two are there just to hold you down, and they take this thing and they just, like, with their hand, you just drill it into your hip. Yeah. So they put they numb the skin, but once it gets to the bone, there's nothing they can do. And they drill into your hip and they pull out like that much bone marrow. And that's how they figure out if you have lymphoma or leukemia or whatever like that. I didn't have anything like that, but I was so screwed up from all this like dieting and cutting constantly and living like way under my means as a like 19, 20-year-old kid who's putting out so much energy and barely eating all the time that my blood cell counts were getting all messed up. Hormonally, I was all messed up too. Like I was on like, I remember before a tournament going in to the gym I was at, going into the change room, changing into my gear and just sitting there and crying.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what the heck was happening to me.
Just emotionally.
I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I do want to do this, and I don't want to do this, and I do want to do this. But I committed to this fight, so I have to go out there and I have to train. And I think eventually it pretty much led to the reason I got concussed so bad in training camp and had to stop was because you're cutting so hard and you're not there mentally, and you just get caught with stupid stuff that you should never get caught as, especially at that time. By the time that I retired, I'd been doing it for like 8 years. So I should have never been in the situation I was in where I got knocked out like that.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that people don't realize is the impact that all this stuff, whether it's diet or workout routine, has on the other systems in your body.
Oh yeah.
Like even I didn't realize the impact, the way you have to train not your muscles but your central nervous system to be able to work up to certain things, which is something that I've learned from both of you guys. Like, when you're training to get me to go heavy on whatever it is, a squat or deadlift or something, that we have to work up to it, because even though my body might be able to lift the weight that one time, it's just not ready to take on that load. Or when you go back to weightlifting and you haven't gone heavy, you kind of got to ramp up, and it's not that your muscles wouldn't be able to do it, but it's your central nervous system, right? I don't know how the heck you guys learned that.
Or it's your joints, or it's your...
Yeah, joints is another one that
doesn't
develop as fast as your muscles.
What do you eat now? How tall are you? 6 foot?
I'm 6'1".
6'1", 200 and some odd pounds.
Right now I'm sitting lower, so like 205.
205.
Yeah.
Body fat range right now?
Right now I'm a little bit low. I can feel it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's low?
So like closer, like definitely
Closer
under
to
8.
Really?
So yeah.
Okay. And then what are you eating?
So
whatever Rachael cooks them, probably.
Yeah. No,
but is it a set amount of meals?
Yeah. So since January to now, I've been going real hard, and I'm pretty much eating the same meals every day.
Okay.
Because you were trying to cut weight. You were trying to cut weight for a competition, right?
I cut from January. From January, February, March. So in March, I cut about 15 pounds, and then I've been just kind of maintaining.
So what do you
around there.
Describe me some of your meals?
Breakfast. I get up super early, so it's easier for me to make a shake. To be honest with you, the first thing I do is have a cup of bone broth. That's the first thing I do every morning now, because the benefits for your joints and your gut, and I'm getting old and I'm feeling it, so I need to do stuff like that.
Yeah,
I agree.
You're in your early 30s.
You know what? I saw at least 5 hairs fall out while you've been sitting there too.
Just the way you were walking, I noticed your posture was a little...
What people don't realize is my training age is like really old. Like I've been beating the crap out of myself for a long time.
Okay.
So my joint, like I'm telling you,
Mike
joints
actually
do not
talks
feel
about
great.
that with me sometimes. He's like, you have an unfair advantage because you didn't work out forever.
Yeah.
So now your joints are still okay compared to...
Not only did I train like an idiot like a couple times a day consistently, I was under eating my hormone. Like there was a bunch of things that contributed to like how I feel today, and you will reap what you sow.
So 100%. Bone broth and then your shake.
So they have a shake. Yeah, I do protein powder and collagen. So the protein powder is a beef protein. I find it works better with my stomach rather than whey.
Okay, so not whey. Yeah. Okay.
So I use a beef protein with collagen. I put ginger in there. I put some turmeric in there. It's like anti-inflammatory stuff. A cup and a half of frozen berries. A cup of either spinach or kale. A tablespoon of honey, and half a cup of oats. I blend it all up, and so I can get to the gym around like 5:45 to 6.
Okay, and then you're doing a workout?
No, and I'm training clients, and then I'll do a workout. Like this is my routine since January. So I train 1 or 2 clients. I do like a conditioning-based workout, which is either like longer distance or interval training on one of the machines, and then I'll eat again 2 cups of sweet potato, a turkey burger, and fruit.
What time is that?
I know people look at me weird in the gym.
Yeah, because you're eating. That sounds like 9:30 or something.
They're
Yeah.
like,
okay.
oh, you eat that for breakfast?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this is like kind of like second breakfast.
Midday.
lunch.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And then from there, I'll train another client or two, and then I'll work out again around noon, and then I'll do more strength, or like depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. Right now, I've been doing a lot of hypertrophy work around my shoulders and stuff, 'cause I have a partially torn labrum in my shoulder, so I'm just trying to build up the muscle around there. And then so I'll train again, and then I'll have my post-workout shake, which has about 100 grams of carbs in the form of sugar, just to replenish what I've put out. Has collagen and protein in it again, a couple other supplements, glutamine, creatine, just the stuff that's really been proven to work.
Sure.
So those are my 2 workouts done, and then back to either training people, or sometimes I have some time to do my computer work, business stuff, training people, and that could go all the way to about 7 o'clock depending on the day.
Okay,
So
and
some
then
days
your
I'll go home
dinner-
at 5, and some days I'll go home at 7. For dinner, I'll have a cup and a half of rice, stir-fried veg. I like putting tomato sauce on it for more flavor, and then I'll have some free-range chicken with that. So every meal will have like a carb source, vegetables, and a good protein source. Before I go to bed, I usually have a grass-fed beef burger, no bun, just a burger, and some like
This is
chopped
like my
up
dream
celery.
day.
Yeah, it's just a lot of food.
Yeah.
And how many calories are you burning a day, do you think?
So if you look at my Whoop band,
Yeah.
it was somewhere in the 4,000 to 5,000 calorie range,
Damn.
depending if I'm a big dude, so
Yeah.
that plays into it. But on top of that, I'm on my feet from 6 a.m. to about 7 p.m. every day with 2 workouts. And
So
all I
you could
do
be
for a
eating
living
4,000
is move
calories
people's
and
weights around.
And
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
And still be in a
6%
deficit.
Oh,
body
yeah.
fat.
Yeah, I lose like that. I was like losing weight doing that diet.
Got
But
it.
Dan
Yeah.
probably has to be stricter with meal timing. So we were talking about meal timing earlier. I'm like, well, Dan's busy, so the more that you have on your plate, the more structured you have to be.
Okay,
But
so that gives you more flexibility. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying? 'Cause-
now it's not quite as strict. You've got like a window, and
Okay.
my life is a lot easier now,
Do you
training
notice-
wise, than it used
What
to
about your
Do you notice a difference when you, like, if you don't eat the right thing before or after, like when you were being really strict with a certain amount of fats after the workout and this much before, would you notice a difference in your training or performance when you were that strict over when you're like, you've loosened things up recently over the last few months?
Yeah, and it actually makes it easier to be stricter just because you're eating, so for example, fat and protein at the right time so that you're not hungry at random times. Now I find if I'm a little bit looser, then I'll get hungry and I'll get cravings at
the
times
wrong times,
that I normally wouldn't. So for sure,
How many calories do you think you're burning a day, or do you know?
right now I'm sort of maintaining, so it's like around 1650, 1700. It's probably a little bit like right now it varies by how intense my training is right now, and I'm kind of in an off season where I'm just doing light high volume stuff. As training ramps up and I get into like a heavier phase of training, then it would probably be closer to 1800, which is pretty good for. I mean, I've been as low as
you're talking
before
about,
a meet.
You're
like
talking
I've
about how
been,
much you're eating,
uh,
or how much you're putting out.
that's how much I'm eating.
Were you asking how much she was putting out or eating?
Well, I
like
guess it's kind of,
energy
if you're
extract.
kind
If
of
I'm
maintaining where you
maintaining,
are,
then it's
she's
about
probably
that.
pretty
Yeah.
similar, right?
Yeah, depending on if you're in a
Yeah,
cut.
and that's
phase
to
or
maintain
whatever.
around like just under 49.
I know when you're working, I don't know what it is. So is that like for a female your size? Is that, I guess is that high? Like where does that fall on the scale?
I think that's pretty high.
Pretty
Yeah.
high for.
I don't
for
know. I really
size.
just don't know. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
how. So that your body size will obviously, I guess it makes sense on how much how much energy you're using, how many calories you
Yeah,
need. Right?
it's
Yeah.
definitely
And-
the most that I've been eating at this body weight.
Mhm.
Oh,
Her,
wow.
Hands
her
down, for
workouts
sure.
are a lot different than what I do, because like
'Cause you're-
she's lifting but there's like 3 or 4 reps that happen, or 3 to 5 reps
Yeah,
that
yeah.
happen, and then there's a rest, and then she does a lot of sets back and forth like that.
Yeah.
Whereas like I could be going an hour straight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds like
just
Dan's
you
calling you
nonstop.
lazy.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's just
Sounds
the way
like-
weightlifting works,
Sounds like
right?
you just said your workouts are better than hers.
No,
Well,
not
somebody
even
has a national
close.
record,
Yeah,
so, I
exactly.
mean,
Somebody
that's-
doesn't, right? But it's just different, right? But she's using a certain type of energy system. I'm using like a bunch of types of energy systems. It's just different.
And I think we're
requires-
all unique. Like that's the
Oh, for
biggest
sure.
thing that I've learned is that we're all so different. Like there's no cookie cutter one kind of diet.
Well,
for
you said
anybody.
there was recently, you went to a seminar where the guy did a biopsy of his muscle type
Mhm.
to see, to your point about being unique, to see what kind of muscle fibers he had and what percentage.
Yep.
Where he could excel. Okay, so like that's taking it to
I
an
don't
extreme.
like that.
Yeah,
I don't like that
that's an
approach
extreme
at all.
level.
Just from the perspective of like, instead of finding something that you like and something that you're good at and then pursuing that, it's like
that's fair.
having some external force like funnel you into what
I think
you should be good
it's like
at.
the
and
communist
so-
system.
I think,
okay, you weightlift,
but
he did
do it
that
forever.
He did that after he had won a bunch of Ironmans and
Oh,
stuff
okay.
like that.
Yeah.
Because he went from competing. So this guy,
Then why do it?
because he's coaching now. So he wants as much information as possible to use for when he's programming for people. So he wanted to see after all his years of training and competing and stuff like that, how his body was made to do that. And it's just, he had a genetic potential to do something really crazy. I could have that same genetic potential, and if I don't have it up in my head to do it, it's not going to happen.
Well,
right?
like anything when you're getting to that level.
Like
Actually,
he
that's
won
a great
Ironmans.
question.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but that's a great question for you too. Is at this point, what's harder for you? Like, is the mental game must be, because this is what freaks me out about weightlifting, because I didn't even really think about competing in weightlifting when I was just trying to lift heavy weight. I like flipping weights. So when I started training with you, or when you started coaching me, I was like,
Help me
I just
lift
wanna
heavier weights.
Yeah. And then I realized after competitions that I was like, oh my God, you train all this time. You go to this competition, you get 3 shots at the snatch, 3 shots at the clean
No
and jerk.
pressure.
And then if you don't hit it,
It's over.
for another flipping year.
Yeah.
Like it's it's not easy. So mentally, that's got to be
Or 4 years
tough.
if you're going
It's
to the
taken
Olympics.
a long time to develop like the proper mindset, and I feel like I'm only just sort of getting there. And I wish that when I started competing that someone actually just said, hey, go have fun, and not like, this is a big deal and you need to do XYZ and you've done this in training, so you need to hit whatever, because it just put way too much pressure on me for a really long time. So finally I'm starting to come into my own, I think, as a competitor.
Who put so much pressure on you? You?
It's always going to be partly it's always going to be partly yourself,
we
because
just don't
like
want to throw anyone under the
like
bus.
Dan,
mention
no. Like Dan said, like you need a good angel on your shoulder to be like, hey, because otherwise you just beat yourself up and you're like, oh man, I'm so embarrassed. That was a terrible performance. Like I've had competitions where I didn't bomb out. I totaled and I won my weight class, and I went home and I was just like
Upset.
but like beyond upset, where you're just like, why do I do this? That was the most embarrassing thing ever. Like I suck at this sport.
Yeah,
But then you have
crazy
the
to
same,
me.
I had the same total at a different competition where I went in with a different mindset, and it was the most fun ever. And I came out of it like, I don't care about my total. Like that was awesome, and I want to do it again.
Awesome.
I think the
But-
fun factor is a huge thing.
I'm so
I
happy to
love
hear
it.
that
The
you're
fun-
coming into your own, having fun at it, because
it makes training, even the bad days are good days. Like I
Yeah.
just love training right now. But
That's cool.
I think that a lot of people think that that's something you have or don't have, and that's why I don't like the idea of like, what am I built for? Where do I belong? And then instead of just like, well, why do I find this interesting? And then I want to get better at this, because some people like, and I've heard this from coaches and athletes, like so and so is a good competitor, so and so's, they're
You
just
hear
they're
that
just not good in
all the
competition.
different types of sports.
And then
Sure.
for a long time, I was just like, I felt like I wasn't a good competitor. And, in competition, I couldn't bring it or whatever. I didn't have the fire, or I didn't have the
so
right.
much of it's mental, eh?
But
Wow.
But then the other side of me, the part that took on weightlifting as purely like an interest, and then pursued it because I liked getting better at it, and it's a little puzzle that you can figure out. That part of me always looked at that and then just thought, well, why are some people better at competing? Like there's got to be something that you can learn here. It's not just like, a flip of a coin and either
black
you
or
have it or
white.
you don't.
Well, I know, like
You can learn, like you can train your brain, you can train your mind, just like you can train your body.
But there's a lot of like athletes use sports psychologists. Like I know, especially in the MMA world, I know because they visualize winning the fight and all this stuff. Do you?
I
do you
started
have
with that stuff just recently. I mean, I had always done, I'd always kind of like, you dabble in meditation and stuff, but until you have someone sit down and say, I want you to do this. So the coach that I'm working with right now, Greg Everett, he, a couple weeks out from Ontario Championships, he's like, I want you to do visualization in the morning and in the evening. This is how you're going to run through it. And you're going to imagine, everything. And it's a full, like, it's like almost, when you really get into it, it's almost like hallucination where you're sitting there and you can feel the barbell and you can feel the weight of the barbell and you can imagine your warm up through to whatever weights. And then, and I want you to do that before, like going into each training session. So because you know what you're going to be doing the next training session and what you want to achieve for that training session. And it made a huge difference. Like it really did.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I'm still I still work on that.
The discipline to do that is tough. That is hard to do.
It's relaxing though. It doesn't.
Once you do it, it's
like
relaxing.
once you do it, then you're like, that was really enjoyable, and it made my training so much more productive.
Except for when you're like getting ready for a fight. I read a book called Mind Gym. That's a really good one.
Getting ready for a fight and you're picturing getting punched in the face.
Yeah, that's like
you don't. Yeah, but I mean that's
you feel your heart rate
normal.
doing this.
Yeah.
I'll be in a car driving, thinking about what's happening, and my heart rate just going crazy.
Yeah. And I'll still have like I was talking to Kylie, one of our other coaches at Radix, about this the other day, where before each fight, like either the day before or the morning of, if I have time, I'll have like almost like a little panic attack where everything comes to a head, and then it's like all of that pressure, like this meet means this, and you need to hit this to qualify for this, and you've worked so hard for this, and remember that one lift that you missed, oh man, and then it all gets bottled up, and then you let it go, and then you go into the competition and you're just
okay. So I got to ask you about that. So I'm going to say I could pick anyone, but let's take an international one. So we'll say like World Championships.
Yeah.
So it's in California. You're walking up there. This wasn't your first World Championship?
No,
right?
no.
Okay, so let's say the first ones or this one, whatever.
Yeah.
Like when you're walking out there to go do your lift, like you're not freaking out? Like I don't even like it at the gym. If I'm trying to hit a big weight and 10 people watching me, I'm like, why are these people watching me, man?
Well, I mean, the nice thing about this sport is it's like the exact same conditions in every competition. So you have a barbell and it weighs precisely this much, just like the exact barbell that you lifted in training. So you can kind of use that to logic yourself like out of the panic mode. There always is like a little bit of flutters. Like you kind of need that. You don't want to go into a competition being like, well, I don't care.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
You need to enjoy it.
To have
competitor.
Yeah.
You have to.
But there's a
feel
difference
that.
between like fear and being nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a difference between anxiety and worrying about what the outcome is, and then just like having that nervous energy that you can use to lift more weight than you've ever lifted.
And then
before.
if you hit the first one, so let's say you hit your first lift, then are you like, you just kind of feel better, like feels like the pressure's off, versus if you miss the first?
Making an opener is highly recommended.
Yeah, because I'd imagine if you miss the first
opener,
one.
I used to miss my first lift. Like it was famous. It was like, I was famous for it. I would walk up, miss the first one in the exact same way every time until I finally figured out like what I need to focus on to make that first lift. But for a long time, it was.
Sorry, go ahead.
For a long time, I would just miss that first one, and then it's like
then pressure ramps up. I imagine
it's so stressful. But I mean, you can still come back from that. And now I know, like, hey, it's okay. Like it does. There is no pressure. There's never any pressure. There's never any pressure. And I had that thought in at Pan Am's where I'm like, you start to get nervous, and the day's getting closer, and you're just kind of waiting, and then you're like, this is just weightlifting. 1 and 2, like I don't have to be here if I don't want to. Like there are tons of other people who would love to be in this spot, and I could check out at any point. I can do my first snatch and then be like, peace, I'm going home, and you'll be, never invited back. But you could do that and no one would really care in like a year. But so you're like, okay, well, this is an opportunity. It's not an obligation. So I want to be here, and I'm excited to be here.
Were you like, are you naturally like amped up to do it when you're there? Are you like excited?
I am now. Yeah. I am now that I've
but do you have to, or are you like more?
I know what kind of mindset I need to be in for sure. Going through the competition, I'm pretty like chill, and then like Nick was making fun of me earlier for my celebrations. I'm like, once you make that lift, that's when like the emotion comes out. But before that, it's just like.
But do you need somebody to help you bring it up, or you just need to like?
Yeah.
I'm thinking if you have to calm yourself, if you have to actually bring yourself down, I might be so freaking out that I have to bring myself down.
Yeah.
No, for me, it has to be. I can really only hit those like PR numbers when it's no longer a big deal and I'm ready to take the next step. Like if you're still making it a big drama in your head, like this is a PR and this is a Canadian record, blah, 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 then that's going to freak you out, and it's just going to be way too much pressure, and you can't focus on the movement. Like once it just becomes like, okay, this is just another weight, and we could call it anything. We could call it 101 kilos. We could call it 222 pounds. So why is 222 pounds a big deal? And then 218 pounds was no problem.
When you set the record, what were you saying to yourself? Do you remember?
I had at that point convinced myself that it was just a red and a yellow on the bar. So it was 95 kilos.
Amazing.
And I just pretended that I couldn't see the collars, and that's part of the visualization where you're like you go up, and it's amazing like what your mind can do, and
part of the whole thing.
Like if you tell yourself this weight is going to feel really heavy, it'll feel really heavy. There's no chance that weight's going to feel light. But if you think of the weight as just another weight, like the weight doesn't matter, it's just about the movement.
If someone wants to see that record lift, is it on your Instagram? Where can someone, is it YouTube or Instagram?
Yeah,
because the celebration afterwards is awesome.
Epic.
But you've earned that celebration. I don't care. To me, when you see that celebration, you're like, you've earned that.
Would not be the one to be the person in her way on the
yeah. Wait, is that on your Instagram account?
Yeah, it's on my Instagram.
What is it? What's your
Life in KG.
Life in KG?
Life in KG.
Life in KG.
Or Life Inc. G.
Got it. Life Inc. G. That's worth
it's a
watching.
Really good feeling.
That's worth watching.
It's a good feeling when you make lifts. So
that's a big thing though. The positive talk versus like self-positive talk versus self-negative talk.
Yeah,
it's huge.
You know where I noticed that recently
huge.
was at Radix when we were doing that crazy 12-week thing where I said I almost died. I had to do 30 clean and jerks. Not that my clean and jerks look anything like him. I did 30 clean and jerks, and then I had to run a mile and then do 10 rope climbs, and I was failing on the rope climbs. And I remember thinking to myself, because I don't really compete against anyone, I just remember thinking, wow, I guess I'm gonna fail at this, and that's interesting because I kind of worked at this for like 12 weeks, so I'm gonna let Dan down, and I wonder how I'm gonna react. So like it was this slow motion, like processing,
time
like
slows down.
I saw Dan walk over and talk to Rachael, and I could see he was concerned, and then Rachael.
I was like, how much time is he gonna? No, I was like, how much time is he gonna need to get 100 burpees done at the end of this?
Yeah.
And we were like calculating. I'm like, okay, he's getting back on the rope now.
Yeah. And then I saw at the doors. I saw Erwin walk in and Charles. Like you see all these things happening in slow motion. Yeah. And then you said just take another minute, and somehow I managed to climb up the rope with more rest. I guess that makes kind of sense. Yep. And then I remember running with my arms down because I couldn't raise my arms up, so I was running for a mile like this. And then Nick gave me a good tip. He's like, "Why didn't you just grab your shirt or something?" I'm like, I had no concept of it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do. I'll look hook on, or just because it gives my arms a rest.
Instead of just
because it was really awkward running them with them.
For me, it's easier. I don't know. Do you
do
that?
Or no? I've been in spots, those type of spots. I'm typically not thinking straight.
Yeah, you're just trying to do anything to make yourself feel better. That's all it is.
But just from your self-talk going up to the bar, and then my little recreational version of that, I find those are like the awesome moments of life.
They're growing moments.
Yeah.
Like I find looking back on that, those are the things that I really appreciate. That I'm like, thank God I did that.
Yeah. And you keep chasing those, and that's
it's the same principle for everything that any one of us have accomplished, no matter, if it's different levels, but it's a high level for each of us. I think whenever, whether it's fitness or something else, whenever you strive for something, you focus on it, you put in the work, the feeling and the satisfaction you get after, like it's life-changing moment. And it's not just that moment, it's the whole. So if you're talking 12-week challenge or whatever else, it's whatever led you to that point. It makes a big difference of who you are as a person, because now you're capable of
100%.
Concentrating and achieving something, as opposed to someone that sees something through halfway and then just says, screw it, I'm not going to do it.
Well, and for someone like me who was kind of in the corporate world for a little while, then us going and starting our own business and stuff, this has been one way for me to try new things in life. Like otherwise you get into a routine when you're in your mid 40s like I am. A lot of people in their mid 40s don't try new things in life anymore. And when I go to Radix and you put something on the board that's like completely ridiculous, and I mean that in a good way, it's good because it'll be the first time I'm trying like a bunch of handstand push-ups. Yeah. Like I maybe in life I've never tried that before. So the gym offers me a place where I can continue to try new things and continue to grow even in my 40s. So I really want to thank you for that. Like it's a big deal.
Yeah, no,
it's
that's cool.
and
That's what
you
it's
don't
all
have
about.
that in life to go. There's not many places you can do that.
No, for
You
sure.
know? Yeah.
And
Why don't you thank me for that too?
Yeah, no, you told me to go to the gym. Nick, I'll tell you, when Nick said go to the gym the first time, and the first time I went in there, I threw my stuff down, and then he came and whispered to me, he's like, why'd you have to throw it down right there? I'm like, I don't know. Is there a change room in this? Because, like, I didn't know how this gym works.
Yeah.
And then I did a deadlift. They were trying to check if I could deadlift or something, and I think they put 25 pounds on the bar on each side, and I kind of pulled my back. Like, it was kind of, like, I was like, oh.
This is not at Radix, though.
No, it was not.
Just
So
wanna
it's
put
not
that
at your
out.
gym. It was not at your gym. But I kind of hurt my back just because I was so out of shape. And Nick said, do not tell anyone you hurt your back.
So supportive.
Lifting that night, because it was total 95 pounds.
If anyone asks,
He's
we're not related.
Yeah. Do not tell anyone you hurt. And then I tried skipping.
I just was watching out for him.
And then I tried skipping, and I literally brought my knees to my chin. I brought it up.
yeah.
I was like that. And
But you
yeah,
need,
then
you
he
need
just
that intro.
yeah.
I can still barely
Yeah.
skip.
Yeah.
You guys have gotten so much better. Though.
Well, yeah.
Like
Hey,
I still
I'm the same
remember-
way too. When I first went to do CrossFit for the first time, I could barely put my hands over my head because of how bad my mobility was. And I told Rachael I want to walk on my hands. She almost died.
Yeah, that's from all the
Like
just
you need to
bench
put
press
your
everything.
hand over
Over
your
your
head before you can, that's just from punching.
I remember Nick went to the gym, I think it felt like for 15 years before you found the CrossFit stuff. And he came and he said, yeah, I did this thing. I met this girl trainer. I guess this would be Rachael.
Yeah.
She said, climb up this rope or something. And then I don't know if you threw up in a bucket, but you're like, there was a bucket there and you can throw
was
up if
so
you want
fun.
to. Yeah,
I
like
wanna
you could-
do that
It was
again.
like, I almost like
that's
the way I
old.
heard
Threw up
it.
in
That's
a
old school
bucket.
CrossFit.
Yeah, I
though,
was like,
too,
you could
right?
throw up or maybe you threw up or
She
didn't. I can't
really
remember.
loved hurting people though. Like that's how I met her. Was like I signed up for 10 personal training sessions, which was supposed to be with the owner who was like a big powerlifter guy. And I'm like, oh, this dude's gonna make me strong. And I show up for my first one, and she comes up
Rachel
to me and
walks
she's
around.
like, I'm going to teach you how to do CrossFit. I almost laughed in her face.
Yeah.
An hour later, I could barely
Yeah,
move.
she's
I was
tough.
on the ground like, what
She's
did she
tough.
do to me?
Yeah.
And I used to get
It was
punched in the face.
impressive
But it's
the way
in-
she could move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
But it's a positive push though.
Totally.
Like-
Yeah, I think she really wanted to hurt me though.
And like there's no judgment. Like she wasn't like, oh
No,
man, this
no.
guy can't
No,
do
not at all.
Oh, no,
deadlifts.
no,
Like God
Rachel's
bless
awesome.
No,
Richard.
she married
for-
me eventually.
Yeah,
right?
that's
So-
true. I guess.
And she's a true teacher. I
She
remember
is.
when I was spotting someone on the bench press, and I didn't know what I'm doing again. I know just try to catch the bar, and they weren't coming down. I forget what I was doing, but I touched the bar when I shouldn't have touched the bar across the gym.
That's like bro
Ra-
code.
Yeah.
Rachel's
She
like,
screamed at me, "Zach, get your hands off the bar!" I'm like, oh my god, what did I do wrong? But she teaches.
She's
I
getting
learned.
old
I
though,
learned,
because
yeah.
she's not like
getting
that as
soft.
much.
She's not
She's getting
anymore.
She's a
soft
mom
in her
now.
old
She's
age.
She's a
mom
mom.
now.
She's
Yeah.
great. She's
Other
great.
priorities. That's the
Because
focus.
I haven't heard her
Yeah.
scream at somebody like that except for me in a long time.
Yeah.
But I
Anything
mean,
else,
even like when I started, so I didn't even have like I had no athletic background, and I didn't. God bless Richard, because he somehow convinced me that like this could be fun and I could be like pretty good at this.
Yeah.
Although he never, I don't know if he ever said that, but it was more just like, yeah, that's good. It was terrible.
Yeah.
All of my lifting was awful. Like when I went in,
So he
I
lied to you.
I
lied to you.
didn't even have.
Gotta get him in the
I didn't
door.
even have like training clothes. Like I showed up in like cotton cargo shorts and like a tank top that was not like I was covered in sweat by the end of it, but like I didn't even have that, and like no one said, like no one made me feel like I couldn't
That's
do
cool.
this.
Yeah,
That's
you
what you
need-
need.
you do need that,
You know what?
yeah.
I think that's the biggest difference too between, for anyone looking at trying this any type of workout thing.
Yeah.
When you go to places, there are certain places where it can be intimidating. It can be cliquey. It's about what you wear, and there's these types of things. When you find an environment that is truly supportive, and there can be like a competitive angle to it in a good way and stuff like that. But when you find a good environment that's truly supportive, it makes a massive difference. It really does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's a testament to actually what you created at Radix, because there's so many people that, well, Siberia and what Amanda's doing is a good example too, that can, within that environment will be supported and try to be lifted up as well.
Yeah.
And
And
I
everyone
think
will tell you that where they started.
totally.
Like
Yeah.
everyone will be like, "Don't worry, man." Like
Yeah.
I started, I couldn't do.
I still
Couldn't lift the bar.
It just takes me longer to learn. I'm just a slow learner is the way I look at it, right?
One more thing for Amanda. Over the years of you training, I just want everyone to understand what kind of mindset you need. Did you ever think, okay, I'm assuming you didn't go out with your friends all the time because you were training 3 days a week, so you had to get sleep and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you
Well,
ever?
I mean, I was in school for a lot of it, so part of it was just like you're just focusing on. I was trying to focus on both, and I wanted to do well in both. So, but yeah.
Did you ever feel like you were missing out on other stuff, or did you feel I'm on the path? I just interested in the mindset.
No, there were definitely days where there was one day in particular where I was cutting for a meat that was right before Christmas, and it was like the Christmas season, and everybody's celebrating, and you go out to parties and you can't eat anything, and you're kind of like, well, okay, I gotta go now. It's like 9. I gotta be in bed by 9:30. So yeah, for sure, there are definitely days. You pick your days. So, and I mean, you at first it's hard because people see you doing this and you don't have the results to justify it yet.
Yeah. So they're just like, what are you doing?
They're just like, come on,
why bother?
Like, it's okay. It's just provincials or whatever. But now people understand like why I'm doing it. It's kind of like at first when you get really strong, and then people ask you to help them move furniture, and now they don't ask you anymore because they know you're gonna, like, when we set up for competitions, they're like, don't ask Amanda, she's got to meet in like 2 weeks. She can't get injured.
I don't do it anymore either. But that's for different reasons.
Yeah,
I just make.
But so looking back,
you want a CrossFit workout?
I'm
pick up this
hoping
stuff.
You don't regret any of the stuff, like looking back.
I mean, there was nothing else that I could have done, right? Like I could have gone to those parties and not made weight at the competition, and not like you always have a choice. And I mean, like I really liked this, and I wanted to achieve some goal at that time, so I did whatever was going to get me there, like within reason.
There's a reason why she is where she is too,
totally.
right?
Yeah,
there's our
and
sacrifices.
I mean, you,
I just think it's that
you try and make like a compromise. So whatever, if me and my boyfriend wanted to go out to celebrate his birthday or something, I was like, well, there's a meet like the week before, or so let's do this another time, or the week after. There's like, it's fine, I can fit in a meal there. So the people who love you get it, they'll understand.
There's a lot of parallels to us when we quit our jobs to start this business. I know how many hours we had to put in, and I always associated it with creating momentum.
Yep.
Like we had to put in the hours to create momentum. And then once it's going and you have your routine set, it's a little bit more manageable and stuff. But those first few years, like if you don't set those habits down, you can't create enough momentum and enough kind of positive gains in the business building to really build anything. And it's kind of similar to me with what you've did, year after year. You were kind of setting the momentum, and once you had it rolling, it was easier to maintain.
Yes.
Just from an outside observer, that's kind of what I see.
And even from like a financial perspective, like once like you're broke for so long, and you're like, I remember sneaking into UTM and I didn't pay my gym fees that month, and the alarm goes off, and they're like, oh, it's okay. You go around through the back, and then someone lets you in through the back door, and then finally you get to a point where like
this is how in Canada we make national champions.
Isn't that messed up?
Or I'm like running for the bus or something. I run out of bus tickets. There was one day where I had to like bike with all my stuff home. Anyway, like you go through all of these, and then you finally like break through, and then you get a little bit of funding, and then that's when it gets easier. And I mean, there are other challenges along the way, but yeah, for sure, you pick up that momentum, and then you finally like you have enough behind you where people see where you're going, instead of this just like obsessive weird habit
how does it work in Canada where you get some funding? You have to hit certain levels, or
so there's a provincial level of funding, and then there's a national level of funding,
and that's on results.
It's based on results through the year. At select competitions, so some are more important than
that's
others.
Cool.
It's
pretty brutal.
It's
other
complicated.
Yeah. Boxing's the same way.
Yeah, it's pretty convoluted, but
and
for sure,
the politics is even worse.
And
I think that's what a lot of people don't get. Like, I mean, I'm a coach, so I see it a lot, and I want all of my athletes to understand this when they come in, is that like most people will work hard. Most people will do like everything that you give them, but it's work over time, and the time is the killer. Like it's a lot longer than most people think.
Oh yeah. When I first went to the gym, I thought in 6 months I'd be going to these CrossFit regional game. I'm like, maybe I should try to go for that.
Yeah, join the list.
Yeah. That's what most people misunderstand.
Yeah, like you'll work hard, but I mean, you've got to, and for a lot of my athletes, like I don't want them to do too much at the beginning, because then it becomes overwhelming. Like I'll have people who come up and we're prepping for their first competition and they want to know if they should cut 4 kilos in 2 weeks. Like, don't touch that. Like, don't even touch the like, get the training in consistently first, and then we'll add the ROMWOD, and then we'll add the nutrition, and then we'll add we'll add the stretching routine, and then we'll add this, and then we'll add this, and you tack it on bit by bit. Like, I didn't start off doing 6 days a week. If I had, I would have burnt out.
There's like a curve too.
But I had people who just said, okay, this is enough, and so I was like, okay.
Yeah, cool. And then Dan, I'm curious, what's driving you now? Because you're running Radix, you're running 12-week challenges, but you're still pushing. No, but you're pushing yourself. Like I know after you,
I train pretty hard still.
Yeah, you coach us, and you'll be out there running around doing a salt bike in the sun or rowing in the sun.
That's just for tanning purposes.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah. But what's like? Because you don't necessarily have to be doing this stuff.
No,
anymore.
I don't have to do it at all. But how could I coach people to do the crazy stuff they do without doing it?
But you also
that's what you believe.
Yeah, I love it.
And
if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would buy a bigger gym.
Yeah.
I would pay Amanda more. And I would work out 2 to 3 times a day.
Do the same thing.
I absolutely love training.
You have to.
I love it.
Yeah.
I couldn't live without it.
Like
but
the next 2 weeks and just to be clear, you're loving the whole process of the training.
I love it. I love being in the
bringing
moment.
That up
I love
again
the pain
because,
of it.
Yeah, because you're not trying to hit this one goal and then you'll love it.
No,
you're loving the whole experience of it
I
at this
actually,
point.
at certain points in my life, I love the training more than the actual competing part of it.
Yeah, I was like that for a long time.
Yeah. There's points where I really enjoyed the competing and I didn't want to train as hard. But right now, I love to train. I love the way I feel. I love being in really good shape. I love being strong and agile and being able to run and jump and do everything I want to do.
You were fighting before, weren't you?
Yes, for like years.
So you don't want to get hit in the face anymore.
I can't. I've had too many concussions, and they're gonna fix my nose tomorrow. So if anybody touches me, I'll lose it.
Tomorrow's a big day.
Tomorrow's a big day. I've been waiting for this
because
for
you
a
might
couple
be able
of
to
years
get more
now.
oxygen.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Oh man, these young guys are gonna pay.
Yeah.
It's gonna get even stronger,
even
like, better looking.
You sound like me. You're 10 years younger than me or something. You sound like me with the young guys because I'm trying to keep up with him, which I can, and then guys even younger, you know, and like I can hold on to some of them, but it's just it's I've definitely seen the body. It makes it
at 45. Yesterday we was a short workout, and these guys were finishing like a whole round ahead of me. I'm like, I'm just wondering, why is my body not going any faster? Like, why? Like, I'm trying. This is full effort. Like, I'm trying, but it just won't go much faster than this.
Oh no,
it's so discouraging.
John's like 25. And
he was showing me his Whoop data, and he's like, look, I burned 7,000 calories yesterday. I'm like, oh my god.
After his 3rd or 4th workout.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, I just can't. I mean, you can't recover this. That's the difference. Is you can't recover the same.
Oh,
at least for me, what I've noticed is you can't recover the
Look
same
at the stress levels, right? Like, I called him the other day at like 1:30 in the afternoon to go back to the gym for me, and I'm like, hey John, I'm like, you're sleeping. There's no, it's 1:30 in the afternoon. You're sleeping. Like, that's the good life, man.
If you can work out, hey, your life, your terms.
Yeah, exactly. Like, goodness gracious.
But yeah, for sure.
Anything else?
You got
so
it.
The only thing I was going to ask is just what if for anyone wanted to reach. I mean, I don't know if people are around or people want to reach out to you guys for anything. I mean, you do.
Don't
coaching
contact
stuff.
me for any reason.
Okay, so don't reach out to.
You have to
reach
watch
out to
Amanda's
Amanda.
video on her Instagram. Instagram.
And if you're there, just send her a weird message. Just to freak her out a little bit or something.
Send me technical.
Is it just Radix the website?
RadixPerformance.com.
And then reach out to you.
You
there?
can reach out to me to the email on the contact.
Is it worth reaching out to you if anyone wants something for you?
I'm just joking. Yeah,
Amanda is
I
very
really only
antisocial.
have. I'm terrible at social media. I don't even have a cell phone. Like these
She
guys
has a
know,
flip phone.
I have a
It's
flip
pretty
phone.
incredible.
Although I did watch the Avengers, and Tony Stark also had a flip phone.
That's true.
Yeah.
She told me.
I love that you don't have a cell phone. You just have a flip phone.
I mean, I have a cell phone. Just nobody ever messages me on it. I check it like once a week.
And that's how you become.
That's how.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. That's
that's nothing to do with weightlifting. That's just like
no. There's a lot there.
Oh, it's so hard. The social media
So
stuff's
repeat
hard.
the Instagram account one more time.
Yeah, Life in KG, LIFEINKG.
And she won't respond to you anyways.
No,
it sounds like,
I will.
I
will. That's the one thing. I have a Facebook page too, but I don't know. I don't really put much effort
On the
into
notes
it.
for this podcast, we'll put both of those things. So if you're listening to this, you can also find them there. And that'll be at rockstarinnercircle.com/podcast. You'll be able to find the link to this, and we'll have both links there too. So if you're looking for this, you can find them there.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
No
Appreciate
That
it.
was fun.
Hey, it's Tom Kradza again. So hopefully you enjoyed that chat with Nick and Dan and Amanda. We're going to put the link to Dan's gym in the show notes for this. So if you go to rockstarinnercircle.com/podcast, you'll find the link to this episode and be able to get the link to his gym out there. Amanda's Instagram will also link to that as well there. So rockstarinnercircle.com/podcast. You'll be able to get to this episode and get those links. Hopefully you took a lot away from that. We are having fun with this show. For all of those of you who've given us feedback on iTunes and give us a 5-star review, thank you so much. It means a lot to us. That's kind of the way we're getting feedback to gauge how we're doing on this. So thank you so much. Really means a lot. We're still having fun doing this, so we're still planning to roll these episodes out. We have a couple great guests in the pipe. I don't have them booked just yet, but we're pretty excited about some of the next episodes. So stay tuned for that. And if you're listening to this and you have anything you want to share about this podcast with us, guest ideas, topics to cover, whatever it is, you can email podcast@rockstarinnercircle.com. So that's podcast@rockstarinnercircle.com to get through to us. So again, thank you for all the feedback. It's really helping us drive and try to pull on the best guests that we can and share as much information as we can about real estate investing and just about living life on your terms. That's really the number one priority in our own lives and why we're doing this show. And it's why we built Rockstar Real Estate. It's to help ourselves and others live life on your own terms. So with that, we'll wrap up. Until next time, your life, your terms.